to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning and if Lightning will strike gold. And I don't really know exactly what that means. Will they win the Stanley Cup, the President's Trophy? Will they be successful? Like, what is the point of this team, right? Because here's the thing. If I was running a franchise, like, there's got to be a goal in place, right? A goal. Obviously, like, you can't just be like, we're winning the Cup this year. Some teams, like Colorado or something, they can try to make that claim, or Vegas. Like, there's certain times that you absolutely can, but there's some points where a team's got to acknowledge, like, where we need to build so we can win in the future, right? But a team like Tampa just doesn't seem to get the memo like that, right? Because Tampa Bay, right? They're obviously still trying to contend. I thought with the news that they're not going to sign Stamkos even during the regular season, that maybe they're going like, this is our last hurrah, right? Like, we're going to go through this year, see what our team's going to do, and then if it fails, we're going to rebuild. And not rebuild completely, but really retool and try to put together a winning team. But obviously that is not what they've decided to do. What they decided to do was basically just fire Steven Stamkos and hire Jake Guentzel in his place. And is that the right decision? Because Stamkos, right? 81 points this year, 40 goals. The guy is still kicking. He's a couple years removed from, 106 points. Like, he's scoring goals every single year. He's still getting tons of points. In the playoffs, I would say he was their best forward, maybe. He was always, he was getting points on the board. He was always fighting hard. Like, there was no downside to Steven Stamkos in the playoffs. Like, he's fighting hard. He's the captain of the team, and now they said, but bon voyage, like, fucker, get out of here. We're bringing in Jake Guentzel. And I'm just like, why? He has 77 points this year, so pretty relatively close, but it's not like Jake Guentzel is young or anything like that. Like, he's not like Steven, sure, he's not Steven Stamkos' age, which is in his 30s, but he's approaching that time, and they signed him for big money, 9 point something money, and it's like they obviously were not afraid to spend money on someone. So it's just strange to me that they were just like, yes, we're going to move on from Stamkos, and Jake Guentzel's the answer. And to me, it's like, I would have absolutely thought of, you need to build the depth or defense, right? And they kind of did both of those, right? So they also get rid of Mikhail Sergachev, but they bring in McDonough and Moser, right? And with Sergachev, they also bring in Connor Geekie, who I think is a pretty good acquisition for the team of Tampa Bay, but it's just... This team has been bombarded with moves to bring in Tanner Jeannot and stuff like that, these ridiculous moves over and over again. Remember the year that they brought in Barclay Goodrow for a first-round pick? Of course, they won the Stanley Cup with him, but it's just trades like that over and over again where sometimes they hit, but they've just kind of been grinding them down to a halt where they, of course, Goodrow shipped away, and now they ship away Sergachev, and it's just they're just chipping away at what they already own and not bringing anything in to build something greater. Because, is Ryan McDonough and J.J. Moser really going to be a big change? I think that might be, right? So let's look at the lineup that's going into this season. So, Guentzel, Point, Kucherov is most likely going to be the first line. I don't really see any other way. I mean, I probably would want... No, because that's going to be the point, because Guentzel is going to be the guy they want to score goals. Kucherov's going to feed him, and Point has to be the first-line centerman, right? So, that's going to be the first line. So, obviously pretty good. There's nothing wrong with that top line. Kucherov, of course, he's going to have a down year. No way a guy like him, 44 goals, 100 points, he's not going to be able to carry the load again, right? The year where he had, 138 points, or the other year that he won the Hart and all that, he's not going to go bad or anything, but get to 100 points. He's not going to have the stellar season like he did that carried this team this year, right? So Jake Guentzel, he had 30 goals this year, maybe being the number one guy on a team like this where he's really going to be fed the puck. Maybe he still gets in the 30s, but he's not going to get the 40 or 50. And Point, obviously, just a solid centerman. So first line's fine. Hagel, Cirelli, Atkinson, who's brought into this team. Once again, it's Hagel is a solid, very solid young guy who's definitely going to be he is a great player for Tampa Bay. And Cirelli, also amazing second-line center. Like, it's fine. Atkinson, I think, could definitely be useful on this team. I feel like he's going to have a bit of a resurgence. He's going to be one of those nice, like, fantasy players to pick up. I think he's going to have a very good time in Tampa Bay, especially being relieved of duty from a place like Philadelphia. I think he's going to absolutely love playing here, so I expect him to have more of a breakout season. Guy's old, but you get what I mean. So, once again, it's like the top 6 is fine, and then Sherry, Paul, Isamont is whatever. That's a kind of weak third line, to be completely honest, but it gets the job done, I guess. Then Gergensons, Glendening, and Chaffee. That is definitely a fourth line. Like, that is a fourth line that isn't going to get a lot of minutes on the ice. Definitely when they just need to get a line out there because everyone else is dead tired. So, that's okay, I guess. But the big strong point for them, I think, that they have regained this offseason was a strong defensive unit. Hedman, Radish. Radish is a very decent defenseman, especially pairing him with Victor Hedman. Obviously, like, Hedman is just such an anchor. That's absolutely fine. McDonough and Chernak is definitely going to be a great shutdown line. Amazing shutdown. Just two big bodies, two guys that can do great defensively. And then with J.J. Moser and Per Beeks, I gotta be honest, being a Coyotes fan, living in Arizona, like, this guy's one of those underrated defensemen I think could have a huge breakout with a team like Tampa Bay and just have, like, such support that he can actually let loose. So with the defense, and of course with Andre Vasilevsky in the back end, like, it is going to be tough to score on this team. Definitely an issue that they needed to resolve last year, especially starting off without Andre Vasilevsky to begin with. And, like, there is a lot of points going towards, like, the issues with Tampa Bay. But have they really, like, gone above and beyond with the team's defense? No. It's just definitely going to be solid. And Vasilevsky. So, my big issue with this team is that it's, once again, is this team a playoff team in the Atlantic Division? I think so. They're definitely going to be contending for a spot. But think about who is in the Atlantic, right? You have the Bruins. You have the Panthers. You have the Senators and the Sabres. And all those teams combined with Toronto, by the way, don't know how I left them out, and Toronto Maple Leafs. So you got to think Toronto probably makes the playoffs like they always do. They just have too many good, top talented guys to not win. You have the Florida Panthers, who are no way going to miss the playoffs. And you have teams like the Senators and the Buffalo Sabres that are also contending. The Senators and the Sabres too, and the Red Wings. Like, all of these teams feel like they could have a year where they kind of slide into that top 3. So Tampa Bay, from the top 3 standpoint, is going to be very tough to get into. But they got in the wild card this spot pretty safe this year. They were 7 points above the second wild card, right? But this year, you have teams like the New Jersey Devils and the Hurricanes and the Rangers still in the Metropolitan, right? And you combine that with a team like every year there's always that surprise team, right? And last year for the East, it was kind of like the Flyers. What if this year, randomly, the Blue Jackets do really good, right? There just feels like there's going to be a lot of competition this year for those playoff spots. And a team like Tampa Bay, where a guy like Kucherov is coming off his amazing season, Gensel just isn't really that kind of, like, game-changing player. Vasilevsky's definitely been a little off the last couple seasons. To me, everything points to this team being once again in the wild card run. It just does not feel like this is a team that is going to be contending with Toronto, with the Florida Panthers. The Bruins still look very solid. And then you have the teams jumping out like the Senators and the Red Wings and the Buffalo Sabres. So this team, where they barely made it in the playoffs by 7 points, remember, 7 points. They had 98 points, second place had 91. That is a difference of only 3 wins and 1 overtime loss. 3 wins and 1 overtime loss. Does this team rub to you after having, like, their great, like, carrying season by Kucherov? Do you think this overall squad is going to be able to, after coming off of that, isn't going to be able to muster up the wins to have, and especially with the departure of, like, Stamkos and the real shakeup of the defense and stuff, isn't going to have a tough time with getting those 3 wins, especially other teams like the Senators are going to have competent goaltending with Omark now? To me, this is a ripe year for a team like Tampa Bay. After 2 years ago, when the year they lost to the Maple Leafs, they were dead tired, and they finally got knocked out, and they got some wheels under them, right? This year, if Kucherov just decided to go unreal, and he pushed them into the playoffs. This year, what happens when Kucherov's on his down year, and this team as a whole has already shown that they're kind of losing their legs? they're going to miss the playoffs. That is my prediction for this team. I do not think this team, even if they make it into the playoffs, I do think that this team is missing a lot. Kucherov is not that kind of player that can carry a team in the playoffs. He has to have the unit around him. And I know, like the years they won, he led them in points, right? Every single year that they made into the finals, he led them into them, right? He was the number one in points. But number one in points, as you can see with a guy like McDavid, does not win the Stanley Cup. It is an overall effort. You have to have God on your side, and that's goaltending, offense, and defense. And this team, the defense could potentially be there, but a washed-up McDonough and Hedman just feel like, I don't know, Vasilevsky just hasn't really been himself, it feels like, and the offense just is not stacked. To me, Tampa Bay is prime and ready to get eliminated from the playoff run, and that is my prediction about the Lightning. So that is all I've got to say. So if you've made it this far, thank you for watching this. If you've gotten here, you might as well subscribe. It'll put a big smile on my face. Anyways, thank you for doing that if you did, and please just do it. I mean, it makes me happy, and if you did it, that would be so cool. But that's all I gotta say, so thank you for watching this. I hope you have an amazing day, and too sweet, and ta-ta for now.